Iraqi Dinar RV Update 2026, the real plan they don't want you to know. What if the biggest story affecting the Iraqi dinar in 2026 isn't the headline everyone is talking about? What if the real developments are happening quietly behind the scenes, hidden inside economic reforms, banking modernization plans, and policy changes that most investors never take the time to examine? For years, Iraqi dinar holders have searched for clues about the future of Iraq's currency. They've followed rumors, watched breaking news, and tracked every statement coming out of Baghdad and the Central Bank of Iraq. But according to available information, the most important developments may not be the ones generating the loudest headlines. Today, we're going to examine what some analysts believe could be the real long-term plan behind Iraq's economic transformation, why international institutions continue to monitor Iraq's financial reforms, and what these developments could mean for the Iraqi dinar moving forward. More importantly, we'll separate facts from speculation and explain why many investors may be focusing on the wrong signals entirely. And before we finish, we'll discuss one critical factor that could influence the future of Iraq's currency more than almost anything else. So stay with us until the end, because the final piece of this puzzle is something many observers rarely discuss. Welcome back to Global Currency Watch, your source for Iraqi dinar updates, currency analysis, and global financial developments. If you follow Iraqi dinar news, Iraq's economy, or international monetary developments, you're in the right place. Today we're taking a deeper look at what some observers call the real plan behind Iraq's ongoing economic reforms. We'll examine what is actually happening, why it matters, what risks remain, and what investors should be watching in the months ahead. As always, this video is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Now let's begin. The banking reform story. For years, Iraq's banking sector has faced significant challenges. Modern banking infrastructure is essential for economic growth. Without efficient banking systems, attracting investment becomes difficult. Without investment, growth slows. Without growth, currency confidence remains limited. This is why banking modernization continues to receive attention from policymakers and international observers. Recent efforts have focused on increasing transparency, improving compliance standards, expanding digital banking services, and strengthening financial oversight. According to available information, these initiatives are designed to create a more modern financial environment, but that's only part of the story. Some analysts believe these reforms are laying the groundwork for broader economic integration with international markets. Whether those expectations are ultimately realized remains uncertain. However, the direction of reform itself remains an important development. The digital transformation factor. Another important detail is often overlooked. The global financial system is changing rapidly. Cash transactions are declining in many countries. Digital payments continue expanding worldwide. Iraq has also been encouraging greater adoption of electronic payment systems. Why does this matter? Because digital systems improve transparency. Transparency improves monitoring. Improved monitoring can help reduce financial inefficiencies, and increased efficiency can support broader economic development goals. Some observers believe these efforts represent one of the most significant long-term economic changes occurring inside Iraq today. While headlines often focus on exchange rates, the transformation of payment systems may have a much deeper impact over time. The role of oil revenues. Of course, no discussion about Iraq's economy would be complete without discussing oil. Oil remains the foundation of Iraq's government revenue. When oil prices are strong, government finances generally improve. When prices decline, economic pressures can increase. This creates both opportunities and risks. Strong energy revenues provide resources for infrastructure development and public spending. However, dependence on oil can also create vulnerabilities. That's why diversification remains such an important topic. Many policymakers continue discussing strategies to encourage growth in non-oil sectors. If successful, diversification could strengthen economic resilience over time. What happened next caught many observers by surprise. Even as global markets experienced uncertainty, discussions about diversification remained a central part of Iraq's long-term economic planning. Section 5. International relationships. Another factor receiving significant attention is Iraq's relationship with international institutions and trading partners. Global economic integration matters. Countries that attract investment, maintain strong trade relationships, and improve financial transparency often create conditions that support economic development. Some analysts believe Iraq's efforts to strengthen international engagement could play a meaningful role in future economic growth. However, challenges remain. Regional instability, political uncertainty, and global economic fluctuations can all influence outcomes. That's why investors should avoid viewing any single development in isolation. Instead, the broader picture matters most. Part 4. Deep analysis. So, what could all of this mean? Let's examine 3 possible scenarios. Best case scenario. In the most optimistic scenario, reforms continue progressing steadily. Banking modernization improves efficiency. Digital adoption expands. Investment increases. Economic diversification gains momentum. Government institutions strengthen. In this environment, confidence could improve over time. Improved confidence often supports economic growth, and stronger economic fundamentals can contribute positively to currency stability. However, even in an optimistic scenario, significant changes generally occur gradually rather than overnight. Moderate scenario. A more balanced scenario assumes progress continues but at a slower pace. Some reforms succeed, others face delays. Economic growth remains positive but uneven. Investment improves gradually. In this situation, Iraq continues moving forward, but transformation takes longer than many investors expect. This is a scenario many economists frequently discuss because major reforms often require years rather than months. Conservative scenario. In a conservative scenario, challenges slow progress. Political disagreements emerge. Economic pressures increase. Regional instability affects confidence. Investment growth remains limited. Under these conditions, reform efforts may continue but face greater obstacles. This scenario highlights why investors should remain realistic and focus on facts rather than assumptions. Part 5. Common investor mistakes. Mistake number 1 is believing every rumor. The Iraqi dinar has generated speculation for many years. Unfortunately, not every claim is supported by evidence. Always verify information through credible sources. Mistake number 2 is expecting overnight transformation. Economic development rarely happens instantly. Most successful reforms require time, planning, and execution. Mistake number 3 is ignoring economic fundamentals. Currencies reflect underlying economic realities. Investors who focus exclusively on rumors often miss important developments occurring within the broader economy. Mistake number 4 is allowing emotions to drive decisions. Fear and excitement can both distort judgment. Successful analysis requires patience, discipline, and critical thinking. Mistake number 5 is confusing possibility with certainty. Some developments may create opportunities, but possibilities are not guarantees. This distinction is extremely important. Part 6. Big takeaways. So what should viewers remember from today's discussion? First, the Iraqi dinar story is ultimately an economic reform story. Second, banking modernization remains one of the most important developments to monitor. Third, digital transformation may have larger long-term implications than many people realize. Fourth, diversification beyond oil remains critical. And finally, investors should focus on facts, reforms, and economic fundamentals rather than speculation. The real plan may not be a single event. Instead, it may be a long-term process involving modernization, institutional development, and economic transformation. And that process is still unfolding. So what should viewers remember from today's discussion? First, the Iraqi dinar story is ultimately an economic reform story. Second, banking modernization remains one of the most important developments to monitor. Third, digital transformation may have larger long-term implications than many people realize. Fourth, diversification beyond oil remains critical. And finally, investors should focus on facts, reforms, and economic fundamentals rather than speculation. The real plan may not be a single event. Instead, it may be a long-term process involving modernization, institutional development, and economic transformation. And that process is still unfolding. Part 7. Strong Ending. As we've discussed today, the future of Iraq's economy and currency will likely depend on a combination of reforms, stability, investment, and long-term development. While many questions remain unanswered, one thing is clear: the story is far bigger than any single headline. The developments taking place today could influence Iraq's economic future for years to come, but whether those efforts achieve their intended goals remains something the world will continue watching closely. What do you think happens next for the Iraqi dinar? Do you believe Iraq's ongoing reforms will accelerate, or do you think challenges could slow progress? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy in-depth Iraqi dinar updates, currency analysis, and global financial news, make sure to subscribe to Global Currency. Watch and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.